Hey, good morning guys. Staying here from Rocky Creek. Welcome back to the Homestead. So today we're going to share with you a pretty bad thing that's happened on our homestead. Unfortunately, we haven't had this specific issue ever since we've been raising our pigs, and disaster did strike. And let me get these guys fed this morning, and then let's talk about what happened. Morning, May May. Morning, Olivia. So if you all follow us on Instagram and Facebook, you are already aware of what's happened. But for those of you that don't, obviously you can see we only have 3 piglets here. And that's because we lost one to our first bear attack on our livestock here on our property. So guys, what happened was, it was earlier in the week. I got home from work, took care of a few things, and it was maybe about 5:30 or so that I told Madison to come on out with me and let's go take care of the animals. And so she did. And we usually start with the pigs, and we took care of the pigs up top. And then we were down here feeding these guys. Madison goes, "Dad, where's the 4th piglet?" And I didn't see it anywhere in the pen. And my first thought was, man, I hope it's not sick, because when they're sick, they'll just lay down and usually not want to come around. And so I started looking around inside their pen, inside the houses, thinking maybe it's in there or behind the homes. And I didn't see it anywhere. So then I immediately thought, I wonder if the big pigs may have pushed some fencing like we had earlier this year, or was there a spot that they've rooted and somehow it got out underneath? I didn't see that, but I did see something with the fence that made me a little nervous. Let me show you what I saw. So when I came along the backside of the fencing here, there were 2 things that I noticed. Number 1, I noticed that the fly trap was on the ground, and you can see where it was hanging right there. But what caught my attention more than anything was this panel right here. It's hard to see it too much on the camera, but that thing has been pushed down and bowed out, as has this corner right here. And when I saw that was pushed down and bowed down from the top, my initial thought was immediately, I wonder if a bear got into this pen. So when I saw that, I told Madison, I said, "Madison, I'm worried that a bear may have gotten the pig." I said, "I need to start looking around, see if I don't find it anywhere or any other clues that may tell me that that's what happened." Well, unfortunately, Madison, not even a couple minutes later, she's actually the one who found it. And I'll show you where it was. So right here is the back corner we were just talking about. And when you come along here where this brush is, and you get to this little clearing that drops down to my neighbor's property, there's a little clear spot down there near a stick pile. And it was right there where she ended up finding the pig. Of course, immediately she starts kind of tearing up and is like, "Dad, I think I found it." And I said, "Is it alive?" And she says, "I don't think so." So I didn't want her going down there to it. I could tell she's already upset enough. So I told her, I said, "Madison, I'll tell you what, you go hang out over at your swing set, which is at the other end of our property. Let me go down and check it out, and I'll let you know what it's like." And when I went down there, I immediately told myself, this is definitely a bear. Number 1, it took it out of that pen with not a drop of blood. It clearly went up and over from the way that the fence panels are pushed down. When I looked at the marks on the body, particularly along its side, I mean, they were deep, long, super sharp cuts through the body. Almost like you took a fillet knife through it. And the only animal that I could see that could do those deep, clean punctures and like completely through the body like that had to be a bear. The pig was clearly deceased for sure. Fortunately, I saw my neighbor out cutting his grass. I told him what I had going on. I told him, hey, the pig's on your property. I promise I'm gonna come get it. But my immediate concern was, I have about 2 hours before it gets dark. I'm pretty confident this bear's gonna come back, and I need to do something right now to keep it from getting any more of these piglets. So you might have seen it in the video, but here's what we did. So I had this Energizer on hand. I hadn't used it yet. This was what I was gonna use. Whoa, buddy, you sneezing? So as I was saying, this is the one I already had on hand. I didn't have it hooked up. It's just an electric one. You can see it's plugged in right there, and I have it running to an outlet on the side of the house. But I got an additional grounding rod. I had the leftover poly wire from when we ran the line on the inside part of Mater's pen, and so I just I looped it through with the screw right there, fed it up, hooked it through here, and then did a loop here where it feeds up to the line. And then from there, I literally just ran the connectors all the way along this entire pig area, running them at about just at or below the height of the actual hog panels. The only spot I had to do a little something with is, if you see right here, the panel kind of cuts in and then goes back out, and it was putting the line really close to touching the metal. So I just got one of these cheapy push in type electrical posts, but where my ground's so hard, it's hard to do it. But it was just enough to bring that wire out from the fence to ensure it doesn't have contact. Once I got it all hooked up, we tested it with our tester, and the tester's like maxed out. So it definitely had plenty of hotness to it. Now it was just a matter of, is it gonna be enough for the bear? And the height that I ran it was in hopes that it would be at its snout level or near its face to get the most impact if it tried to come get the pigs. But how did we actually validate that it's a bear, or have we been able to validate that? We confirmed it was a bear through a sighting. When my friend Mike was here helping me out trying to get this done before dark, we were actually working on this piece right here, trying to get this line out, when we heard a bunch of rustling coming through the woods. And ultimately what happened was, literally right here at this hog panel, which is only 2 panel lengths from us, so 32 feet, a huge black bear, the biggest one I've personally seen here at our area, came running up right through here, and it stopped right here at the fence and just stared at us. My buddy Mike pulled his gun out and was gonna start to go towards it, when the bear took off back down past the carcass and went that way towards our creek. I am very confident that bear was coming back to get what was left over of the carcass of the pig, because there was still a lot left. Speaking of the actual carcass of the pig though, for those that are squeamish, I would recommend you don't watch these next couple clips. But for those of you who may suffer a bear attack on a livestock, I wanted to share with you a couple of the photos that I took of the deceased animal, because it may help you that if you don't see the attack, you know you have bears in your area. Maybe if the wounds are very similar, you may be able to make a judgment call as to what it is. So if you're kind of squeamish and can't handle looking at that stuff, I suggest you look away for right now. But for those of you, here's some of the clips that I'm talking about. So enough of the bad stuff. What's some positive that has come out of this? Number one was that because of my experience of running that poly line inside of Mater's pen for the first time, I was able to quickly start to work on this one and had a baseline knowledge of how to do this. And with the help of my buddy, we were able to run and get what we needed. And between what I already had on hand and what I needed to get, for right around 30 bucks, I was able to run this entire pen all the way around, protecting all things of the pigs with that. And we are now about 4 or 5 days since the attack, and I've not had a pig attack since. I do know the bear has been back because I have come out to our trash can knocked over, it got a bag of scratch grain one time out of one of the cans it was able to get into and drug that into the woods, and it has knocked over some feed barrels but hasn't been able to get to the feed. So there is no doubt that the bear is here, that the bear's been back, but what is for sure is that it seems that the wire must be working, because it hasn't gotten to our pigs yet. Now I'm a bit frustrated because You know, my coonies are my favorite. You all know that. I make no bones about it. The piglets in particular, you know, we went through a lot of trial with these piglets, man, from the structure burning down to Big Mama being sick. Like, I mean, I worked so hard and through so many adversities to get these piglets to where they're at. And so to lose one was super devastating. Now, I did make a mistake. For those of you that I told on Facebook or Instagram, I thought that the one that was killed was the boar that we were keeping back to hopefully breed in the future. And because after the attack happened, when I went to check them to see which one it might have been, they were like super skittish. I mean, they were freaked out. And when I checked the back sides of them, I swear I couldn't find a thing on the back of any of them, other than the girl, obviously. And so I thought these must be the two that I fixed. And I guess maybe he was so scared, them suckers were hidden. And but anyways, about 2 days later, I was out here. They had finally calmed down. I'm spending time and petting them like normal. And I thought to myself, man, this one pig looks awfully bigger than the others. And so I double checked it, and sure enough, the boar is still here. So one of the ones that were gotten was one of the ones that I had fixed that we were gonna process down the road. So my loss as of right now is I did lose a pig that we would have processed probably about 10 months from now. But the good thing is, those that I needed to be able to keep producing coonies in the future are still with us, and hopefully we can keep them protected and keep our regeneration of our, I don't know, your flock, your group, whatever you want to call them. We can keep producing our own piglets moving forward still, thank goodness. So while we're on the topic of this bear attack, this kind of just reiterates to me when I shared with you all about raising coonies, and I brought up that you should always check on your livestock at least twice a day. And for me, I do that in the morning when I do morning feeds, and I do it in the afternoon when I feed them again. I could just feed these guys once a day, but I choose to do it twice because it gives me an opportunity to check on them and make sure that they're good to go. When I came out that morning, all 4 piglets were there, all were good to go. The attack definitely happened sometime during the day, and I'm pretty sure it happened not too long before I got home, because the piglet was still, you know, rather warm. It was still very pliable. And there were very, very little bugs on it already in terms of flies and stuff. So I'm quite certain that that attack happened probably within an hour to 2 hours of us arriving back here at the homestead. And if I only fed these guys in the morning and didn't pay any attention to them in the afternoons, there is a very good likelihood that I could have much more damage and much more pigs lost. So whether you gotta feed twice a day, that doesn't really matter, but I highly encourage you to make sure that you are checking on your animals at least twice a day. Once in the morning and again in the evening or at night before the end of the night, just because it helps you address a lot of issues. It's no different than Big Mama. When she got sick, find her in the morning. I came out around 2 o'clock that afternoon and she was like something I've never seen. Once again, if I didn't come out in the afternoon, I would have never known that. We could have had an additional 12 to 18 hours, which ultimately could result in more loss or death of a particular animal. So let my issues be your kind of way of preventing you from having an issue. So learn from my mistakes. And if anything, now I've learned, you know, we've had black bear on our property ever since we lived here. We've had them regularly. They have never touched a pig, but it's not a matter of if they will. I guess it is truly a matter of when. So if you have bears in your area and you have small livestock, as they get hungry enough, they will obviously come get your animals. So take some extra precautions. This hot wire has proven to be pretty effective, and hot wire stuff may be some of the stuff for our future long term for all of our animals. So very bad loss, but big lessons learned. Now, one of my big concerns I've had now since the bear attack has been our meat birds, because I shared with you all when we set up the meat birds in their new area that just over that hill is where the pigs are. And the area that I pointed to that the bear ran down to, that's the field that connects to the field where our meat birds are. So what was an area that I thought was going to be great, I'm actually now super nervous, and I'm being super reliant upon the electric netting to protect them. And thus far, it's worked out just fine. And hopefully we'll be able to stay that way. But let's show you how much these guys have grown, and we'll get them fed real quick. So you can see they're still isolated in their chicken tractor. And I have brought them from down there to here, turned them around, and been feeding them back up that way. And my plan is once all this rain from the remnants of the hurricane are gone, I'm gonna spin this tractor around and we're gonna finally start letting them out each day, because they're definitely getting plenty big enough that the netting will contain them. But they are super energetic and they are doing fantastic. Hey, you're on my arm. Hey, get down. The one flew up on my arm. Those aren't your average Cornish crosses, I can tell you that. There's not many Cornish crosses I know that'll fly up 3 foot in the air and try to perch on your arm and won't get off. As you guys can see, they're growing super fast. They need some water. They're pretty thirsty, so their bucket's empty. So I'm gonna get that filled up for them real quick. But I mean, they're growing fantastic. I couldn't be more pleased with them. You can see how well those poultry cups they work, gravity fed. I mean, they love it. Doesn't make a huge mess, especially with the Cornish crosses, but yep, got them all filled up. They should be good to go. Well guys, what we talked about today is the reality if you're gonna homestead or farm or whatnot, especially if you're like trying to build an infrastructure little by little. You know, everything does cost. You know, if you have things such as, you know, a good solid barn, great fencing, both solid and electrical, and you got the kind of money and the time to be able to get all that stuff set up perfectly, that's great. I would love to be in that boat. But when you're doing it small scale and when you develop complacency, because the reality is I developed complacency. I'm not going to put all the blame on not having the structures that I would like to have. Reality is complacency. Complacency and lack of knowledge. Had I learned about electrical fencing in the beginning and built the confidence on that and not let me being uncomfortable or uncertain slow down my progress in using electrical fencing, then maybe this could have been prevented. But you can sit there when things like this happen and beat yourself up all day, every day. You know, when we lost Henry due to the limb dropping, you know, I was pretty upset about that one. That was the first major loss we really had here. You know, we've had some chickens go, which was expected, but to lose him was next level of loss here. I think because of that, although I was very frustrated when I lost this one, it still was a little bit better to manage and to kind of work through it. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was pretty mad. Once Madison was away, I may or may not have, you know, slammed my hands together and let out sort of a weird growl thing because of frustrations. And a lot of it is that not only is it an animal that, yes, was going to be processed, but we still cared for, but I mean, you work so hard. There's so limited time when you work full time and you do all these other things and you raise kids and I coach. And so what time you have, you just really invest a lot into that to really get it done, and you got to work really hard to get it done as fast. And so, you know, it's like you're, you know, about to get to that finish line and then you fall. But the thing is though, is when you fall, you can either stay down or you can get back up and finish the race. And so instead of staying down, you know, I was frustrated. I got my frustrations out in about a 15-20 minute time frame. And then after that, I got to get back up. I got to get to work. I got to get this pig cleaned up. I got to get this thing rigged up to where we don't have another problem moving forward. And the reality is that by getting back up, I then took 3 steps forward from where I was before that incident. So, you know, yes, it's fine to beat yourself up for a little bit, but you can't stay there. You got to get past it and you got to keep trucking forward. And that's what I feel like we did in this situation, and hopefully we can continue to do moving forward. So guys, I know this was some bad news, but I've learned a lot, and hopefully this bad incident will help you learn a lot and maybe help you too. Hey, don't become complacent. Don't allow nervousness or fears of new ideas hold you back, because you don't know until you try them. And also, when you have some problems happen, don't quit. Get yourself back up and finish that race. But also, when you have a problem, you can't quit. If you quit, there's only one end result, and that's quitting. Nothing else will come of it. If you get yourself back up and keep pushing, then there's multitudes of things that can happen. And most likely you're gonna end up with a good result, and you're gonna be better for it. So guys, I appreciate y'all coming along. Hope y'all were able to learn from our incident. We got more stuff coming on. I'm gonna update you on what's going on with the goose and what's going on with our chicks that are growing in there, because we should be letting them out pretty soon to start integrating with the flock completely. So we got a couple things coming down the pipe, but until then guys, we always appreciate your time spent with us. We hope everybody's doing great, and y'all be good, and we'll see you here very soon on one of our next episodes. Thanks guys, take care.